the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network presents Vatican Insider with Joan Lewis. Each week, Joan brings you news from inside the Vatican and the Church around the world, as well as interviews and answers to your questions. Now, here's the host of Vatican Insider, Joan Lewis.
Welcome to Vatican Insider on a weekend of tropical temperatures in so many parts of the world. So my suggestion to you is to prepare a tall glass of something cool, find a shady area with a breeze, relax in a comfortable chair, and sit back and listen to one of the most interesting interview segments I've ever prepared. This week I was blessed to interview three amazing cast members of the TV series The Chosen: Vanessa Benavente Mother Mary, Elizabeth Tabish, Mary Magdalen, and George Xanthus as John the Apostle. In a wonderful, lengthy conversation marked by candor and humor and deep emotions, we look inside the story and behind the scenes of this television series that has become a worldwide phenomenon and airs in dozens of different languages. I ask, how were they chosen for The Chosen? How have the roles impacted their lives? What are some of the behind-the-scenes stories? Because of the unusual length of our conversation, I'm limiting the news segment to just the top headlines. Sunday, June 22nd, at the noon Angeles speaking hours after U.S. bombers struck nuclear sites in Iran, the Pope said, "Today, more than ever, humanity cries out and pleads for peace, a cry that demands responsibility and reason and must not be drowned out by the roar of weapons or by rhetorical words that incite conflict." At 5 p.m. in Rome Sunday, a very hot solemnity of Corpus Christi, Pope Leo XIV celebrated Mass in the square in front of St. John Lateran Basilica. Following Mass, Pope Leo, carrying a monstrance with the Eucharist under a canopy, processed the full length of Via Merulana from St. John to St. Mary Major Basilica, and that's just under a mile. At St. Mary Major, he imparted the traditional Eucharistic blessing. The last pope to walk the distance was Francis, walking only once in 2013. Wednesday, June 25th, the Pope presided the general audience under a scorching sun in St. Peter's Square. Among others, he met with cast and crew members of the TV series The Chosen, and even allowed Jonathan Rumi, who portrays Jesus, to take a group selfie. After the catechesis, Leo XIV spoke of the, quote, vile terrorist attack on the Mar Elias Church in Damascus, Syria on June 22nd, pleading for peace and telling Middle East Christians, "I am with you, the whole church is with you." During the week, the Holy Father met with seminarians, priests, and bishops as they all marked their Jubilee this weekend. Friday, the Solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Pope Leo XIV ordained 32 new priests and invited them to always stay close to the Lord and let themselves be constantly shaped by His love. Those are the top stories of the week, but now stay tuned for a conversation with the cast of The Chosen.
This is Father Lawrence Liu. Catholic radio is a precious gift because it places a Catholic voice in your homes, in your cars, wherever you might be. St. Dominic would pray as he walked and as he traveled throughout the length and breadth of Europe. Now, as we travel and wherever we go, Catholic radio can help us to keep our minds focused on the things of God.
The world needs EWTN Catholic Radio, now more than ever.
This is Jim Pinto, Director of EWTN Media Missionaries. EWTN's mission is to spread the eternal word and to teach others that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. You can help EWTN share the good news by becoming a media missionary. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today and join us in sharing the eternal word with the world.
Hi, this is Trent Horn from Catholic Answers, and a lot of people ask me, how do you pray? I like the ACTS formula, ACTS. First, we adore God, realize He's God, we are not. We're contrite. We ask Him to forgive us of our sins. We're thankful. We thank Him for the blessings and trials He's given us. And then we make supplications and ask Him for help in our own lives, doing all of this so we can grow closer to Him and spend eternity with Him.
Welcome back to Vatican Insider. Here's Joan Lewis.
I want to welcome my listeners to a new and extraordinarily unusual edition of Vatican Insider. I am sitting with John, Mary Magdalen, and Mother Mary. And you wonder how that's happening? Well, of course you know, because you've been watching The Chosen, and you know that these are three of the main protagonists of that amazing television series. So I'm with Elizabeth Tabish, who plays Mary Magdalen, and you're from the United States. You were born in Texas. And I am also with George Xanthus, who is from Australia, and George plays the role of St. John. And then we have Vanessa Benavente, who plays Mother Mary, and she was born in Peru. I can't wait till you meet the Pope.
I know.
Oh, I know. Because obviously his many years in Peru and his links to that nation. That'll be very special. So it's kind of a little mini United Nations here. I want to go around the table and ask each of you about your role and how you were chosen, how that may have changed you. But above everything else, let's first talk about the trip, to Rome. So give us a little bit of your background, Mother Mary, and I mean this particular trip to Rome, and why.
Well, for starters, we've been filming in Matera, Italy, for the last 3 weeks. What we've been focusing on were the scenes at the cross.
Oh, sure.
And this is a beautiful place, and the city is just magnificent, and it's I think the third city that's the third continuously inhabited. Yeah, the longest inhabited city on Earth. So the city is just has this energy and you go there and you are instantly in the first century. So it really was such a beautiful thing to be filming there. And we are also bringing one of the episodes of season 5 to Rome. So we've had a couple of screenings yesterday.
Yeah.
One at the Vatican and another one for more for the fans.
Sure.
At the Cinema Adriano here in Rome.
Now I want to hear from Mary Magdalen, from Elizabeth, and tell us about your time here in Rome. And have you been here before with the cast? Because I know other members have.
Yes, I actually went in April for a screening at the Vatican as well, and some press for season 5. But I didn't have any of the rest of the cast with me. But it was a really wonderful experience, and I love Rome so much. I love Italy so much. So any chance I get to come, yes. And then I was so excited when we found out that we were going to be filming the Crucifixion here. So. And that was wonderful.
And how could you not film it here? Of course we can't. Unfortunately, go to the Holy Land. Have the three of you ever been to the Holy Land as a pilgrim?
I had. 20 years ago. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And me and my mom came, actually, and we had a big trip all throughout Italy. It was very nice. But obviously, one of the highlights was the Vatican.
But also the Holy Land, I mean, we have...
Oh, I'm so sorry, the Holy Land.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually have been there too.
Oh, this is the other Holy Land.
This is the other Holy Land. Sorry, Holy Land number 1.
Yeah.
And that was even longer. That was like 30 years ago. Oh my gosh, I am so aging myself right now. Yes, and oh my goodness, I was obsessed with just everything Israel for a long time after that. I even wanted to learn Hebrew, and because it was just so impactful and beautiful.
You do come back changed, even
yes.
I remember I'm a lector in my parish in Rome, St. Patrick's, and the first time I ever got up after my first trip to the Holy Land to do the reading of the day, and the first reading according to St. Paul, I just wanted to say, been there and done that. You've just been on the Sea of Galilee or whatever it might be. And so, George, tell us, have you been to Rome or the Holy Land? The other Holy Land?
Yeah, no, I've been to Rome because my family are Greek and we've got a family still in Greece. So I figure Italy and Greece are next door neighbours. So we're very spoilt and fortunate to have come to Italy a few times. But this was more special, you know. Obviously we were filming in Matera, which was so memorable. But I always say, like, the show, there are so many reasons for why the show has impacted people around the world, but as a television series, we get a lot of feedback that people love the history and going back into the first century. And one thing that I have always appreciated about Rome, being an ancient historian myself, is the history everywhere. You know, we visited St. Peter's tomb yesterday, and just being able to see the walls that are hundreds upon sometimes thousands of years old. I think it's really surreal to bring the show here to Rome after we filmed in Matera, because we're reminded of the traditions here, of how, you know, Christianity has kind of gone through the ages, essentially.
Sure.
And to see our show placed in the first century and to see how all these artifacts have been kept, it's really important for people to understand the history, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, a history book is just words. It's, black on white. And then all of a sudden you're here and you're touching the stones.
Yeah.
And you're told the story of the burial place of St. Peter, the first pope, and this wonderful, weak human being whom God chose to lead the church. So if we ever have weak human beings in the interim, in these 2,000 years, we know that's probably still, God's choice. So it is exciting to be here. Now, I'd love to go around the table and ask each of you how you were chosen for your roles. So let's begin with Mary Magdalene, Elizabeth.
I was trying to quit acting and really frustrated with the types of roles I was auditioning for, and I couldn't make ends meet. I had to move in with my mom, and I was really planning on pivoting career directions, just because acting is not always the healthiest option. It's not always great for your mental health or emotional well-being. There's so much rejection and there's so much vulnerability, and I just didn't think it was healthy for me anymore. So I told my agent to stop submitting me, and he ignored that request. And
good for him.
Maybe. And then submitted me for this role. And when I read the script for the auditions, I felt very connected to her and what she was going through. And it was so beautifully written to see a woman who's gone through some trauma and some pain, and she's in this point of despair, but that it ends up not being a tragedy. It ends up being this really beautiful redemptive story. So I was very excited about even just being able to audition for it. I did, and then I got a call back with Dallas, and it was so wonderful. He was so warm and also funny. I was like, oh, this is also a really charming retelling of this story. It's not so serious. It has these moments of levity. I thought that was very different.
Well, a lot of moments bring smiles to your face, let me tell you. But what I love most is how, I think about it all the time, just the three of you now, missing a few of the characters, but what a beautiful friendship, the friendships you've formed, and a family. How can you not consider yourself a family at this point? And that's how the apostles had to consider themselves, right?
Noah just messaged me, who plays Andrew, and he said he just got a Nintendo Switch 2. And I have to go over to his house and play, and I feel like I'm 15 again. So the cast are very much like that. It seems like a stereotype, but it is like that.
Well, George, tell us how you were chosen for John.
We were just discussing this in the van on the way over, that I actually auditioned for Peter because John has but one line, if I'm not mistaken, in episode 1, and it is "go get caught in a net." So I could have probably, which is typical of our depiction of John. He's quite fiery and youthful and temperamental, despite having that loving exterior, underneath. But it's hard to audition for something with only one line. So a lot of the actors who are now portraying disciples would have read maybe for Peter or for Matthew, but I was one that read for Simon Peter originally. And then I remember, really enjoying it. I was one of the few that did not know this was a series about the disciples. I just didn't. I thought I was going for a fisherman. So I was like, this is really cool. Like, I just did not get the hint in the episode. But then
you were going to be a fisher of men.
A fisher
of men.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. But I was living on every Australian that comes to America is somehow on somebody's couch because we come with no money and we're trying our best to make ends meet. I was doing stand-up comedy, and that's how I entered the industry, was through comedy. But as I was walking back to my friend's place in Culver, I got a call, which was a callback. And I'm like, I must be close to this Simon Peter role, whatever, what it was. And it's like, no, the creator Dallas wants to see you for Quintus, who is the Roman praetor.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh my goodness, like, got like a couple of pages. It was an 8-page scene. And I had to come in the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm like, well, the rule in Australia is you must be off book. So on my walk home, because I could walk to the casting agency, I learnt 8 pages, and I came in the next day prepared. And I remember Dallas telling me, he goes, why aren't you looking at your sides? I go, well, I'm off book for Quintus. And he said, I knew I just had to have you in the show because it seemed like you could be off book really, really quickly. And it's funny, I ended up getting the role of John based off auditioning for Peter and Quintus. So I always say, is John somewhere in the middle of those two, But yeah, it was great casting because I've discovered how close I am to the character of John. He actually was exiled to Greece, and so he would have written a lot of his gospel in Greek. And so I've read his book in Greek, in ancient Greek as well, because they're very similar. And it's been hugely satisfying and very, very fulfilling for me to be able to read some of these words in Greek, translate them to English, and then live them out on the screen.
They must have a much more profound meaning in that sense, sure.
Yeah.
Just reading them one day, but reading them because now you're living the role that they're referring to. Mm-hmm. So, and now I want to turn to Vanessa. I want to always make sure my listeners, because this is not TV, they know I'm talking to Mother Mary. How did you meet Dallas and get your role?
Well, I also auditioned, but I only auditioned for Mary. At the time, I was working in casting, and so I, had an office job, and I had to take an extra long lunch break. Fortunately, at that time, we weren't really doing like a major project because usually, like you eat on your desk and you just keep going. But I was able to take an extra long break, and I did my audition and went right back to work. I was really proud of my audition because I was able to do a lot of things, and I really connected with the material, and I thought they were working with me, which is always like a good sign in casting when they're like, oh, maybe you could do it this way. Why don't you try this? And when you try that, I was like, oh, yay. They like what I'm doing. And I didn't hear anything back for 5 days. And I was like, what do I have to do in this town to get a job? This is insane. Because I worked in casting, so I knew if someone kind of sort of liked you, they usually, what they do is they put a pin on you. That's what it's called. And so it's kind of like, hey, we like what you're doing. Before the pin, they ask you for a callback, which is what you all got.
Okay, sure.
I didn't even get the callback. So I thought, at least, they might give me a callback. Like, that's maybe, like, I thought I did a really good job. And I didn't hear anything, so not a pin,
you never
not a
thought
callback.
of praying the Hail Mary.
You see, I should have done that. Yeah. But the 5th day, I got a text from my manager at the time, and she said, "No, you booked it. Wow. You don't have to do anything else. You booked." And I know. And now just
did we forget to tell you?
Yeah. Sorry, it slipped my mind. I just had to pack my bags and get to Texas right away because and I had no idea, but they had been shooting for a while and they had been looking for Mary, and I kind of was cast at the very last minute, and so much so that I was there for 2 weeks, and that's when they wrapped, I think. Like soon after, because we had a wrap party, and I was at the wrap party. Oh, yeah. So it was like really the very last maybe 2 or 3 weeks of shooting is when when I came
The
in.
wedding episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, the wedding at Cana?
Yeah,
That was always one of my
Oh,
favorites.
that's the second note. Then.
Yeah,
Oh, so you only came in the second.
I came in on the second 4 episodes, so my episode is number 5
Yes.
from that first
Awesome.
season.
Now, I'd like to ask each of you which was the favorite. This has to be a very difficult, how many seasons now? We're in 5, and there's 7 or 8. So of the dozens of scenes that you've done, the biblical stories, what has been your favorite so far? George?
For me, it is a hard question to answer because there are so many episodes where the bond with the castmates has been so strong. For example, the Walking on Water, there was just 12 of us sitting in a boat in this huge studio that was all blue walls around us.
Yeah.
And it felt like we were in some sort of alien invasion movie because when they would yell rolling, they had to turn on the waves and it was still water and we just heard this waka, 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 waka.
Some of the previews were amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but where we were hearing everything go dark and then the water start to kind of get rough was just something we'll remember always. But in terms of an episode that touched me personally is it's the first episode of season 2. It's named Thunder, and it's kind of an episode that introduces John. The both sons of thunder, but it is the beginning and end of it is John writing his gospel and deciding to I get goosebumps thinking about it, put all that he's recorded and trying to put it into something legible. And I love it because I got to work with Vanessa for the first time. We do a flash forward to John taking care of Mother Mary, which it's like people were so excited to see, this is clearly in the future. And I love that there's some creative license taken from Dallas and the writers that John was trying to get some help. Where should I start? And then it's Mother Mary that's kind of with him going, why don't we start as far back as we can? And when you read John's Gospel, he does. I was telling you about the Greek. He starts with a word logos, which to me in ancient Greek is, but it could mean so many other things. Like in ancient Greek, you could mean it to mean logic, which is reason, divine reason, or it could be logarithm, some sort of unanswerable equation, So I that was the first time I actually delved into the ancient Greek of John's Gospel because he's writing it. There are just so many really special moments, having each of the disciples come in aged and telling John what they remember. I get goosebumps again. And, John going, tell me what you remember. What did you feel? And I
remember that so clearly.
Very special. So I would say that one for sure, my favorite.
Yeah. Now, Elizabeth, for you, again, there have been dozens, but there have to be a couple that touched you, moved you.
Don't make me choose.
I can understand that's a terrible question to ask someone.
It's so hard. There are a number. We just shot something last week, and we, the scenes with both of you and with Jesus. There was a scene, an overnight scene that I've never felt. I think more tuned in to the moment. It was beautiful. I can't say anything about it though, so we'll have to wait.
It's something that hasn't.
But I loved doing. It's a special episode. It's the Messengers. It's the Christmas special that we shot in between season 2 and season 3, and it's also a flash forward where Mary Magdalen goes to visit Mother Mary, and she's retelling the story of Jesus' birth. And it was so tender and it was so sweet, and it was just my absolute favorite type of scene where we're just sitting there and crying together.
Yeah. Being human together.
Yeah. I loved that one. And of course the episode in season 1.
The one we have to look forward to also.
Yes. Yeah. I can't wait to share it.
Yeah. Now, Mother Mary, you got to have, of the dozens, a couple that touched you.
I think I'm going to make a differentiation like you did, George. There's scenes that kind of touch you personally and scenes that you just loved the experience of filming. The experience definitely has been Matera because of the challenges, because of the content, because of how connected I think we all felt. We're all out of our element. We were all in this foreign city. Nobody had ever been in Matera, so
Sure.
like everything was new for everyone, and it just made everything so cohesive on set. I felt like we were family members next to our loved one, just
Suffering together.
And then we would go home, as loved ones probably do, after a whole day at the hospital, and then you go to bed, and then you go again the next day, and then you're again there again together. And so that whole experience was just really, really beautiful, and I haven't seen it obviously yet, so I don't know if that would be one of my favorite scenes, or because there are many scenes that we shot, but the scene that touched me was the washing of the hair with Jesus.
Yes.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, this is just beautiful. And when I read it, I mean, it gave me goosebumps just reading it. Fun fact, that scene also at the very beginning included Jesus washing Mary's hair also. But I think it kind
the symbolism.
I loved it, and I thought, what a beautiful moment between the two. But I think they just tried to simplify it. Sometimes when you're shooting something, just kind of want something very simple and direct, and I think it's powerful enough the way it ended up being. But yeah,
What I so love is you've kind of reaffirmed my feelings when I view The Chosen. And that is a huge range of feelings. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hearing in your stories. The moments, and I think back to certain episodes myself, and I can remember, oh my gosh, that's so funny, and a big smile on my face. Then I'm sitting there, I'm like terrified of what's going to happen next to whomever, So the range of emotions, of human emotions, is just absolutely phenomenal. And this concludes part 1 of my conversation with the 3 amazing cast members of the TV series The Chosen: Mother Mary, Mary Magdalen, and John the Apostle. But come back next week for part 2 and another look inside the story and behind the scenes of this television series that has become a worldwide phenomenon and airs in dozens of different languages.
For more information on these stories, or to check out Joan's blog and to ask her a question, go to EWTN.com. That's EWTN.com. Thanks for listening to Vatican Insider on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.